Good morning for everyone. Louahdi Nasreddine, National Coordinator of ITGC, Algeria. Next slide, please. I will try to speak in French to have a good presentation of all idea.
Okay, just remember to change your translation channel.
Tienes...
Bonjour. Okay.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
This is the second phase of the project. We started with a platform in 2018, and we are going to continue with our work on the first phase, and there's an interface, and then it is there where we will learn how to work. And then we have the impact zones in order to address 10 platforms until we get to the final year. In the 10 platforms in this year, we had 6 platforms in the long term. We try to actually emphasize the first phase. There are some platforms where we actually carried out some tests during the second phase. In red, we can see the trials that we carried out, and in green, the positioning and the duration. In general, and we have the annual rainfall between 300 and it's around 350 millimeters. These are generally zones that are semi-arid. The challenges that we face and that we've always had with this system in our crops in Argelia are practices that are many times not carried out correctly for fragile and semi-arid or semi-dry soils, where the zones are not good candidates for these good practices. It's very difficult to introduce these practices. The second challenge is the use of several techniques with a certain amount of water for wheat, let's say, harvesting. 0.5 grams of seeds in the fragile zones. And then the organic matter increases 0.5% because in this zone we have 0.8, between 0.8 and 1% organic matter, which is very low. We wanted to reach at least between 1.3 and 1.5% of organic matter in order to get to the 2% that we were expecting in 4 or 6 years. If we adopt these practices, we will be able to reach that objective. The fourth challenge is to improve the yield and productivity, or production yield. We want strategic crops that will actually have a demand in the markets. Another point is the introduction of mechanical technology and the use of these technologies, and the work exists. And all that we have to do after the harvesting time.
Next slide, please. Les technologies et les innovations implémentées dans le cadre du projet
The technologies that we have implemented in our projects and in this phase are the following. Number one,
des travaux qui minimisent
it is the adoption of works and that associate fodder and minimize the tillage,
donc on a adopté
especially in these zones.
en premier lieu et en deuxième lieu
We introduced the technologies
qui sera simplifié pour
first, and
minimiser
then
tillage de travail humain dispense
other techniques
notre manière à conserver le sol
that help us
à avoir une
have a minimum intervention in the soil. Let's say a very low tillage intensive. This actually help us adopt these things and these systems in the semi-combined. The second one is innovation and the efficiency of the technologies implemented. Number three, the different techniques, because
sur pratique d'irrigation
in dry zones or in drier zones,
des blés ou des céréales d'une manière générale et il faut
both well cereals and wheat need to be irrigated, and that actually it's a lot of water require 70 millimeters as an average, and through the water saving techniques we are saving 30% with the change of the water management, and also due to the rainfall that we've had,
l'évaluation agroéconomique
we've
des
gotten certain results. Then we have the farming and livestock evaluation of the different systems. Conservation agriculture has helped us with that. For example, in a crop rotation, maybe less water is needed and more conditions.
points critiques comme des options de
For
production
example, the introduction of skills can be very helpful.
qui résiste énormément à la sécheresse et qui peut produire une production meilleure même dans les conditions de
And also, we should be able to produce in spite of the drought. Another technology is the research.
la technologie, c'est la recherche des alternatives aux solutions chimiques pour la gestion des adventices. Et là, on a trouvé une relation entre les techniques culturelles simplifiées et le nombre ou la quantité des adventices dans les parcelles, ce qui a donné des
Sorry, but I'm not getting the translation into Spanish.
sur cette technique. Donc là, parmi les technologies, c'est les essais ou l'évaluation des différentes méthodes de
We
semis.
have some trials with the different harvesting methods, well, let's say growing methods, compared with the classical ones.
Semoirs à disque qui perturbent moins le sol, donc ils peuvent avoir une meilleure qualité
And
de production.
also, the improved seeds can actually help us improve production with, let's say, a less intervention of the soil.
Sam, you can return to the slide. OK. Parmi les technologies, c'est l'introduction des associations foragères. Et ça, ce qu'on
We have the introduction of different associations, forage associations, for improvement of productions and integration with livestock feeding. So, the association of fodder growers have used
avec le poids ou la veste comme une
a combination of grandma and let's say grow with a better quality of fodder. So it's the introduction of different types of grass. Sorry, I cannot hear anything.
Can you still not hear anything?
The next slide, please. Okay. Quelles sont les technologies
Which are then the technologies which have given the best results? Of course, it is the use of conservation techniques, soil conservation techniques, zero tillage, as well as irrigation techniques for water saving. Instead of using flood irrigation and sprinkler irrigation, having better irrigation techniques, with this we have been saving 7 liters per hectare. By changing irrigation systems.
Sam, I can't see the presentation. Another technologie, une autre technologie, c'est le choix des variétés qui sont adaptées à ces conditions semi-arides et par exemple.
We are also using other cultivars which are already tolerant to dry conditions, like for instance, barley with double exploitation at the beginning of the season, and then we rotate at the end of the crop season, which has given a better production of forage and alternate crops, specifically in those areas where growers, in fact, do not have access to improvement methods. Another aspect of the project is to minimize losses thanks to cereal cropping. This results in good savings with very little investment. That project will be completed this summer, and then we will be able to assess its results.
Next slide, please.
The next slide, please.
Okay, so just bear with me a moment. I'm struggling with the timings. Let me just alter one thing. Okay, and we are back. Go ahead.
Okay, what agriculture technology can help better? Quelles sont les technologies qui vraiment peuvent changer la situation dans les exploitations agricoles sur la base des
What agricultural technologies can help better integration of crop livestock production system? Well, first, we can integrate livestock production with conservation agriculture. That is livestock with crops. We are using stubble with a minimum residue of 1.2 tons per hectare. And that is allowing us to use those soils for forage production after cereal production. Those covered soils with a stubble can be used for grazing with a minimum level of irrigation. That is very helpful. For the next crop season. Also, we have the integration of fodder in the calendar, that is within agricultural production calendar. So we have found that oat, vetch, or triticale production is stimulated, and therefore the green biomass increases, production increases, and in those areas where there are no limitations, that is, in terms of water on their irrigated areas, that production is even more important, and we can save up to 32% of the water used for irrigation. At the technological level, we're talking about the integration of livestock production and agriculture, specifically in those areas with extensive crops, and we are able to use crop rotation. In those areas with the largest surface areas, we have been saving up to 32% of the water volume, which increases the irrigated areas by 10 to 15%, improving farmers' incomes. This is very positive indeed, as compared to the investments made. Thank you very much for your attention.